Hey, you beautiful, amazing people of the internet. Welcome to the RageAffects podcast. Tonight, we got to talk to Formidable. The second time for me, first time for you guys, because as you'll hear in the episode, I goofed. I didn't record the audio for the first time we got to talk. So it's a bit different from the episodes that you've ever listened to through the podcast. However, don't forget, it's still an amazing conversation. Me and Form got into some cool topics, and just to name a few for you, to kind of get the juices flowing. We asked Form what he would say to his, to his younger self when he was a beginner streamer, and things like, why is he streaming on Kick and Twitch instead of just on Twitch, where he's a partnered streamer. He talked about his streamiversary coming on up, and get a little bit more deets about that in the episode, as well as, any tech upgrades. And we actually got into some really cool conversations about why you probably shouldn't be a full-time content creator. And I really hope you guys enjoy it. I always love talking with Form. He's been a breath of knowledge every time I've talked to him, whether it's for an episode of the podcast, whether it's, actually being around him in general and being in his streams and being part of his community. And I even got to be a part of a course that he had on how to become a proper streamer and, just build a community, in my opinion, which is the proper way, basically being a mentor. So without further ado, after all said is done, it's just another conversation with another amazing streamer. And like I say all the time, if you are a streamer and you want to have a chat with me, come on by the streams. We're live Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, either 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for around 4 to 5 hours every Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. I could change it at any time, but for now, that's the schedule. And as always, podcast is sponsored by Podcast Bay Productions. If you want your podcast to sound professional just like this one, feel free to look into the description for the links to the link tree for Podcast Bay. Vacancies are limited, so feel free to drop by. And who knows, you might get my little grimy fingers on your podcast. All right, play the audio. So it's been a little bit since we've actually had to gotten to talk. First time we did it, and we'll just to inform the people that are going to listen. Basically, me and Form did a recording. I goofed. I didn't really triple check and quadruple check the audios, and nothing went through. So when I got to editing it, it was just a blank like hour of nothing. It would have been the easiest thing to ever edit, but I don't think you guys would have liked to listen to it. But
it's a long episode.
A long episode of silence. I mean, if you want to take a really good moment of silence, that would have been a really good one for it. But me and Form did get into a lot of conversations that realistically, I don't think we really want to get back into, just because it's a lot of rinse and repeat for a lot of stuff. And I've talked about a lot of it with a lot of other streamers already. And if for the most part, a lot of like the get goings and stuff is fairly the same for people. The biggest thing that I want to do is just, I want to sit down and have a talk with you, because I know things have changed since the last time we talked. Because Kick is a thing now. You're doing that. And then just streaming. I find streaming in general has shifted in the last couple of months. I don't know if you feel the same way about that, though.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, it changes every month, but it seems, it's I don't know. It's there's a lot of variables involved, but it does seem like there is this shift, almost like too many streamers, not enough viewers nowadays, whereas it was the opposite kind of when the majority of us started.
Yeah, because I've been streaming for, God, it's going on 5 years. And when I used to stream back in 5 years ago, I found like there wasn't a whole lot of people that streamed. Like when I talked to my friends, nobody streamed.
Yeah.
And it's like now it's like, oh yeah, I stream. And I'm like, do you stream, or do you do it as like, is this income that you're making, or are you just playing video games?
There's a lot of people who are live, let's say.
Yeah, there's a difference between a streamer, in my opinion, and someone that just clicks go live.
Yes, of
And
course. Yeah,
for
yeah.
3, 4 years, I think that's what I was. I was just a guy that clicked live, and
Right.
it's shifted in the last little while. And although I haven't been keeping up with a lot of things like posting online, my streams have been doing better. But I've noticed like there's also a mental shift that you have to do like every couple months you almost need to reevaluate yourself.
Yeah, you kind of got to see like where you're at. There are things still working.
Hmm.
If not, need to make changes, which is the hardest part.
Yeah. I feel like we always have a struggle with that. I definitely do. I struggle with creativity, like actually finding new ways to entertain people without
Yeah.
copying someone else because I hate that with a passion. I hate copying someone.
Yeah, I think it's cool to like, look at what other people are doing and use as templates, ideas and make it your own, but because there are like, I mean, only I think unless you're going really crazy, a lot of people do similar things, this for that and community days and this going on and these games and whatever it is, but yeah, it's definitely difficult to stay afloat, I guess you can say,
Yeah,
with
like
the
staying
creative.
relevant.
Yeah. Yeah, because as soon as you are irrelevant and you become a little bit boring or anything like that, then there's somebody taking your spot, right? So,
Somebody else is always working harder than you, which sucks because I don't have I don't have the time of
yeah.
day to be working that hard. But
Yeah, there are some people who I honestly attribute that to a lot of them being younger. I'm
yeah.
33, and when I look at a lot of people who are maybe not necessarily succeeding like crazy, but gaining some growth of some sort, are the people that have hours to put into editing and to recording, to streaming, to all these things, to connecting with people. And I ask myself, like, well, where do you fit in like family, and where do you fit in a job, and
Mhm.
where do you fit in all these things? And that's honestly what a lot of times is like they don't have significant others, there's no children to take care of, there's no other major responsibilities
Mm.
aside from going to sleep and eating, right? So
Yeah.
it
I
definitely
I feel
the
that one.
age gap.
I feel that
When
one.
you
And
think about it,
and the other
some
thing
of the
that
big streamers are 30 years old,
yeah,
some of the big ones. So
the thing that I look at recently is that people that are younger, like in or early 20s, like 20, 21, a lot of them grew up around parents that have gaming PCs and stuff like that and learned at a very early age to do editing. So they've had this massive amount of like learning experience and I'm very bad at like
right.
learning new skills because I
Yeah.
wasn't brought up around computers. I got introduced to console gaming at an early age, but never like photo editing or video editing. And like, I find the younger you are, the easier it is to learn because your brain is like in that learning stages. But yeah, I agree that a lot of people that are bigger streamers now are they've either started when they were really young, like right at the age of, you're able to stream on Twitch for yourself without having parental consent. And then also the factor that they've had many hours that we didn't have to sit there, stream and edit video till the wee hours of the night. Whereas we're like, no, we have children that are going to wake up at 7 in the morning.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's just going to get that much worse for me in October once my newborn's here. But that should
Yeah,
be,
it's I
oh
mean, like I talk
God.
to a lot of people and they're like streaming till 3 in the morning and all these things and they wake up at, 12 p.m., 1 p.m. in the day and they get their editing done and they have time to maybe go to the gym if they're into that and all this
Mm,
stuff. And
I
if they're not in
wish.
school or don't have these jobs and they just kind of like are able to either live at home still or stuff like that, then I do think it's an advantage.
It
I
definitely
think it
is.
definitely is. The problem is like, and I've always thought about this when I looked at other things happening when I was starting. I said, is it sustainable? And that type of work and that type of dedication and the hours towards it, I don't think is sustainable as they get older because eventually you will need to leave your parents' basement and get a job and all these things. So for that aspect, I think it will change and it's a difficult change for them, I think, at that point. But yeah, like when you're even me doing this full time, there's not a lot of hours in a day still, right? There's there's still a lack of hours required,
Oh
especially when
man.
include your streams, your live streams in there as well. So it's yeah, it's definitely it takes people think you have this crazy freedom lifestyle when you just do this full time, but you really if you don't get your stuff done and you don't get it, a good healthy sleeping pattern and all that, you're going to burn out eventually.
Yeah.
So
I feel like people think that, like you said, like streaming is much more freedom based when you strictly do streaming, but what they have to realize is unless you're paying people and you're making lots of money, you're your own editor, your own
Hmm.
scheduler, your own
Yeah.
boss, your own time manager. Like you have to
Yep.
do all this stuff that realistically at a business, there's multiple people hired for this business to run,
Yeah. You
and
don't
you're
have a
doing
team
everything
behind
yourself.
you, right?
You
Yeah.
don't get freedom. Like you don't get
You
free
are,
time.
yeah, you're the boss, the staff, the custodian, the
Yeah,
the everything,
everything. It's
right? So,
unreal.
it's like doing really long, giant, big event streams. It's like who cleans up after all that? You do,
Mm,
right? And who stays after the clip? You do. Who edits after? You do. Like, so you can only imagine doing, let's say, a 24-hour stream, for example. Well, who takes all of that content and tries to make something out of it and posts about this and that? Well, you do. So your 24-hour stream just became this 36-hour job, right?
oh,
So,
100%. Yeah.
um,
I find that happens to me more times than not. And that's why I kind of stopped posting on social media, was because I would stream for 4 or 5 hours. And then by the time my stream's done, it's like 11 p.m. my time, and having to work at 8 in the morning, or, 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. I
yeah,
need some sleep. So then I'll be up to like 2 in the morning editing, and then I go to
yeah.
bed. By the time my brain winds down, it's 3 in the morning. Finally fall asleep around
Yeah,
three
and you can maybe
thirty.
do that a few times, but eventually you'll wake up and you'll just be like hating life, right? Doesn't matter
Oh,
if you're
every day.
playing video games for a living, right? So,
The video
yeah,
game
it's
aspect's the best part. Like you get to play video games, and for me, it's like, it's a hobby. You make some cash here and there, and it allows me to buy things that I want. Like we do a lot of single player games over on my channel, so games are expensive for us in
yeah.
Canada. Like I wanted to
Well,
buy
yeah, when
Jedi
you're paying
Survivor.
$100 a game, right?
Dude, I
So,
wanted to buy Jedi Survivor, and it was like 89.99 plus tax, and I was like,
yeah, I
oh,
didn't. Yeah, I kind of
hundred
felt
and
the
three
same, and
dollars, hundred and
yeah, it's
three
just not worth
dollars.
it. Yeah.
Oh man, like for a
And
couple
as a
hours of,
streamer, I mean, you gotta do pretty decently well to make up for that expense, right? So,
especially when you're a full-time streamer, because most of your
yeah, yeah,
income
yeah.
goes to your bills. For
Yeah,
me,
you
it's
can't
not
just
so
be like,
bad. Like
well,
when I get
you
my
know.
payout, it's like, okay, that's extra cash I didn't really need.
Mhm.
So like, yeah, I'll put it on this, but like for the majority, it's either that or it goes to something for like my kids, or my wife needs something, or like it still
Yeah.
covers bills for me because life is stupid expensive right now. But it is what it is. But one of the things that I was curious about that I don't think we talked about when we did the first attempt of this was, and we kind of got into it a little bit, but I'd really like to know, like, what are some things that you would look back at, and this is basically one of the things of like, what would you tell your younger self? Is there anything that you would tell beginning form for streaming compared to what like you do now? Like along the journey, was there something that you wish you would have done differently to start?
Yeah, I think there's a lot, but I think in terms of like content creation and stuff, honestly, probably one of the biggest things is like start YouTube right off the bat.
Yeah, I hear
Do
that one a lot.
long form stuff, like I try and do a little bit here and there, but like I said, to edit a 20-minute long YouTube, you need hours of content to put into that. You need to be creative and all that kind of stuff. So, and obviously, when you're first starting out, you don't really know where to put your efforts. You're just kind of like trying to go here, go there, and whatever works. So you hope it just works and have fun doing it. So, um, but yeah, I think just focusing on long form content offline and just obviously kind of like learning how to stream properly a little bit quicker. Um,
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Interaction and all these things rather than just like I when I first started I said I'm just going to share my gameplay, and that's when you get into the whole like I'm just gaming and whoever's there is there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, definitely earlier on really focus on how to connect with people while you're live, and I think that is one, I mean, for me anyways, one of the larger reasons why I would stay in a stream or return to one. So I think just simple things like that would
Yeah,
would
I,
would have
I
gone a long
agree.
way.
I agree with the YouTube thing. I feel like a lot of people struggle with the factor that streaming is fun. I get it. Like we all get it. I mean, we do it, but making content that someone can go to watch on a weekly basis and then come and interact with you about that video or about that content, and get to
Hmm.
see the other side of you as a streamer once in a while,
Yeah.
actually can profit you better in a way, but it is the factor that YouTube takes a lot of your time. It takes a lot
Yeah, that's
more than just, clicking a go live, playing some video games with some viewers and having a laugh with them. It's
yeah, I think that's
planning
probably
and,
why.
scripting and all that
Yeah,
other
that's probably
stuff.
why most people don't do it, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah, like my
it's not even like
cousin,
just trying to figure out what to do, but it's to actually sit there and do it. You
yeah.
know, to do one video can take you an entire day, to be honest,
Oh my
depending on what
God,
it
it
is.
can take you weeks.
Unless you're really doing some pretty complex things, right? And the entire day one is like just cutting a video with the boring parts and the ums and ahs out of it and making it clean. And that could take a couple hours to do, right? If you're doing it yourself and you're not like super pro at it. So
Mhm.
it's not too complicated, but it takes forever to do. So
Yeah, like my cousin, which I've interviewed her already, and sadly her episode's already out. And she was in the middle of like starting to proceed towards partner.
mhm.
She actually completely quit streaming to focus on YouTube. She decided that what streaming was for her was,
Yeah,
it was like a half thought. She was doing really well with it.
yeah.
However, she realized that streaming shouldn't be the first thing in her repertoire of things. So she's
Yeah,
focusing
I
on
think
YouTube.
some people like really try and force it, right? I know
Oh
somebody else
yeah.
who's like, I don't like the live streaming part of content creation. I'd rather edit, YouTube videos. I'd rather edit TikToks. I'd rather edit, offline type content, not non-live content, and make money that way because people pay for edits and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like it's not for everybody, right? And it
No, it
takes a lot
isn't.
to be like, you know what, the live part, I'm not an entertainer, I'm not this, but when I can record and edit certain ways and do it how I want to and like really finesse it, and then let people see it, that's what I'm into. And that's, to be honest, good for her to actually figure that out.
It takes a big person to admit that they don't like something like that when you're already
Hmm.
in it.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah,
when
for
you're
sure. For sure.
like I'm 5 years into this. It's very hard for me to look at this and go, I should quit today.
Yeah.
Like I can be the most stressed out I've ever been and I'll still look at it and go, I'll do another day. Because
Yeah.
to me, I
Yeah.
put so much time and effort into this. It would be 5 years of my life that I would air quote waste away because I
Yeah.
decided to stop.
There's a
But
lot to lose for
there,
sure.
yeah, like I've built a community, we've all built communities, but it does take a big person to go, hey, I'm going to completely step back. I'm going to focus on this. And I hope you guys follow along to join that journey instead of just on Twitch. It's
Yeah.
definitely a hard one to do, which kind of brings me into the factor of you started streaming on Kick, which I completely get why people are switching to Kick. But how has it been with like basically streaming on both platforms? Because I know streaming full time on Twitch alone is rough as it is. And with the pay cut that they give you, it's kind of terrible. And
Yeah. I mean,
Kick seems like it's more worth it in the money factor, but like how has it been like interaction wise and growth wise? Because it's a
I think
completely different thing.
honestly, like the way right now it's going is unless the platform makes massive changes really quickly, it's not going to become this thing where people are going to be spending their entire like careers. There's a reason why a lot of people haven't switched, right? And some are switching back. It seems from what social media has kind of shown, back to Twitch. That is, I've never left completely, so I still did my streams on Twitch. I added streams to be on Kick, so for me, that was the biggest part. Was like just more live time, which to be honest takes more time away from everything else. And but that's also because I'm trying to stay full time.
Yeah.
We're living in this society where everyone during COVID was like sitting at home, all this kind of stuff, and weren't spending money on anything, all this nonsense that we all went through. And then now it's, well, I'm at work more, so I can't watch streams as much. I have to pay for these things. I go out more, and I'm saving for concerts, trips, whatever it is. So people are less likely to, I think, financially support. And the whole thing is always a revolving door. Right? It's all about finding new people, because those who want to stay will, and those who can't, support forever won't, and those who want to leave will leave. But I think Kick has offered this ability to just make obviously just over double your money per sub, right? So I'm looking at this as a means of benefiting financially. Now, have I met
Yeah.
a few people over there that I've never met on Twitch? Yeah, here and there. The majority of my viewers are people who watch me on Twitch and came from Twitch. So I'm going to say maybe 98% are from Twitch, and a very small percentage are people that found me while roaming, the recommended on Kick, or from a tweet, and they only, watch on Kick, whatever it is. So I think the discoverability initially might have been there, but I think it was a lot of streamers, which turned into this, maybe not the whole support for support thing, but it definitely was like they're all streamers. So they're just looking to grow themselves, right? So they're just trying to make connections, and they're following you one week and really talking to you. And then all of a sudden it's just like, hey, I've done that. So I'm going to go find somebody else to do the same to. But they don't keep those connections, alive. So
Yeah.
it eventually just dies off. Maybe not intentionally, but definitely the way it seems to have gone. But I honestly think that if people are streaming on Twitch and not taking advantage of suggesting to their community if they wish to gift subs on Kick, then do it. Because most people who get gifted subs on Twitch are not going to hit the notification, come to your stream, and become this regular viewer. So the only reason people usually gift subs, unless to a specific viewer, is just to support you financially.
Yeah.
Um, so, I think being transparent with your community, if you are having a platform like that, is good. But it's also the same as like, hey, if you're watching my live stream on Twitch, I have a Patreon where I make 95% of the revenue there. If you'd like to go subscribe there or whatever, you get things for it there, but you also support me more financially, right? Like, put your money kind of better bang for your buck type thing.
Yeah, I
So I
never
think
I
that's
never
what,
understood
you
the
know,
thing of people gifting subs like like I've tried to avoid that before. Like
yeah. I mean, I'm always a donation kind of guy before any gifted subs go out.
yeah, and like
Because it's about
I've
the financial support, but
I've done like I've done subathons before, and then I tried to do a bitathon, so basically every goal was initialized via bits
yeah,
instead.
yeah.
And nobody went for it. I had to switch it to subathon because everybody, it was like I got like 50 gifted subs in 10 minutes. It's like, guys, subs aren't counted.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I don't know. I think people are a little bit more brainwashed in terms of like how it's
Yeah,
gone, because everyone's done subathon, subathon this, subathon that.
but
Milestones for subs, but
I do
yeah.
love the idea that you keep your Kick subs active, like while you're streaming, even on Twitch, like the notifications and stuff. That way, there, even though you're not live, you still see the initial gift. You can acknowledge it. And again, yeah, the
The
cut
only
is a lot
difference is it just
bigger.
doesn't pop up in their chat, and that's the only difference, right? But it's still an alert, still says who, how many gifted, all that kind of
Hmm.
stuff. And as a streamer, you just make sure you have your dashboard up so you can actually appropriately,
I found that was
address
really
what just
interesting
happened.
that you do that.
And yeah, it's worked. I mean, we've done things like on scary Sunday nights, if you want to shut the lights off for me to play in the complete darkness, well, it's going to be Kick subs.
Hmm.
Um, I've done certain things where it's like, if you want to, you know, do giveaway entries, well, today all subs on Kick are giveaway entries. It's really important to kind of incentivize what works best for you, knowing how subs work, right? Because, like I
Yeah,
said, unless someone's on Twitch and someone's like, oh man, ads, be right back. Most times people are not gifting specifically to someone unless they know them and they see they don't have a sub.
right.
Most times if someone's gifting five, they're not picking, it goes to random people who probably have never been in your stream or probably won't come back, or or won't ever see that notification anyways. So they just, if I'm gifting five, it's like, well, here's on Twitch anyways, here's $12 for the streamer, right?
Exactly.
But it cost me nearly $40. So why not just
Yeah.
donate that $40, right? And
I
the
had
person makes
a
40 bucks.
I had a buddy that he did a streamiversary, and someone kept donating subs and subs and subs, and it was like I'm $1,000 in, and I'm like, oh man, you could have gifted him $500 and called it a day.
Yeah, it's
Like how
yeah.
crazy do you got to be to not
It's
understand that? And he's a streamer, so he streams, he knows how it works. And I'm like, dude, you
I
could have
think some
cut that
people
in
just like
half.
purchasing things. As a streamer, obviously, like, people will support you however they want, right? And whether it's on Twitch or Kick or subs or bits or donations, I think regardless, it's appreciated. But I think people are really into purchasing things on websites.
Oh,
I think it's
100%.
it's how we've been kind of trained over the years since the internet came out, right? So
Mhm.
I think the act of clicking gift sub and picking how many you want and seeing it pop up in chat and all that, I think that really encourages people to do that. A donation is like most times streamers won't even have it like pop up in their stream. It like the alert half works sometimes. I don't know. I've donated before and I've had to be like, hey, check your PayPal because no alert popped up or anything. And it was kind of awkward, but
Especially if
like,
you're in their chat and you
you
have to
know,
mention.
well, yeah, right. And it's like, well, I just sent you like $30 or whatever it was. And it's just like, can you check so you can like kind of like notice a little bit? Like, don't want to like be awkward, but so
Right.
sometimes it's not even set up properly. But yeah, I think, even with a platform like Kick, it's like, and on the whole Twitter world, we went through this phase where everyone was sharing how many subs they were making and how many people were
Oh
gifting
man,
subs and all this
yeah.
stuff, which seems to have slowed down lately, which I'm happy about. But like
Well,
I
it was
muted so many people
unrealistic
because of it. But
numbers. Like
I
the
mean,
guy
at the end
was
of the
like,
day, though, give me 95% of a sub where I make 450 instead of 250. I thank you for that, but I still make 100% of donations.
right.
So, like, I've always like, I don't know, I've
But
always
for me, it's
incentivized
like
that way more.
when I seen the kick ones and like this is what 1,000 sub looks like. It's like how many
Yeah.
people do you think's gonna make 1,000 subs? Like
Yeah. I
like I
mean, there
get
are
it.
some who did,
It's like
but
four
like,
grand, but like
yeah.
I get it, but the chances of that are pretty slim. Like I get
Yeah.
that
I think
kick would
there's a small
probably,
percentage of people who got to that point for sure.
yeah. And
Yeah,
like you
for
were
sure.
saying earlier, like with kick, I I know one or two people that were like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to Kick. Like I'm ditching Twitch. I'm going to
Hmm.
Kick." And they ditched Twitch completely. Like they ditched their community completely. They went to Kick,
Yeah.
and their main goal was to gain followers. And I was like, the follower number doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you
No.
can have 10K followers, an average of 3. Like it does not matter.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's your connection with your community that matters. You can have, I know streamers that have 300-400 followers that have a much higher average than I have. And they
Hmm.
have like a quarter of my
Yeah.
following
It's like, how did you get them or where did you
because
meet these people? And
these people are
yeah.
people that are coming from other platforms to support them, and also the factor that they really like their demeanor. They like how they stream, they like their content, and they stick, and it works. There's a lot of people that have that, and there's people that
Yeah.
struggle. I will say that I find, and this is not to discriminate, but I do find women do have somewhat of an easier way with that. They very connective. I find like my cousin, she excelled in streaming. She was very connective with her community. She built a
Yeah. I mean,
rapport. It wasn't the fact that she was a woman, it was what she did. She was determined. She did really well with it. And because she was accepting to all genders and all the pronouns and
yeah.
all
Yep.
that, it
Yeah.
created this really calming space that a
Yeah, it's
lot
an
of people were
inclusive
able to,
space and safe space, right?
yeah. And then
So
you get men that are like, go fuck, blah, 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 and they're like cursing and swearing at
dudes
people.
being
Don't
dudes,
really,
yeah.
yeah, people
Yeah.
don't really want to chill with that. They want a good space to be in, right?
Yeah,
They
for
want good
sure.
vibes.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. I've even like now that I play a lot of ranked gameplay in Call of Duty, I find myself getting a little too serious for my own good and too competitive. And I definitely think that unless you're in the game, people are kind of like meh about that stuff. So that's even stuff that any streamer has to kind of look after. If that's not their type of crowd that they're attracting, right?
Right.
But yeah, I think I think it doesn't matter where you stream. I think we all know that your type of content trumps the platform you're on. But it's also about being seen, and like you said earlier, it's this shift in streaming. And I feel like there's always been a shift in streaming, but that's I think because streaming shifts all the time. It never stops moving.
Well,
So
with every new game
and
and
there's
every
just
new thing, it
oh
everything
yeah, I
changes
mean,
every
there's
time.
so much new stuff. I know someone who's like always on top of it, making TikToks about this newest game and these little indie games coming out, and I don't even know where the news comes out of. I'm just,
Yeah, I
I'm
don't
just
even know where
like,
they find these
I'm,
things.
I'm just like, okay, I don't even have time to stream, let alone look for this type of content wherever this is coming from. So I think it's just like there's so much changing, but like I really do think there's a lack of viewership now. I don't know the stats on Twitch specific, but obviously the viewership has gone down in the last 3 years.
Oh yeah, because
So
there's
me
more.
coming up on my third year next month is like I started March or not March, but June, 2020. So just as COVID had hit it for a few months, being laid off and stuff. And those first 2 years, like we were in lockdown for the first year, pretty much for sure, with a couple openings. And that meant a lot of people at home. And now it's just like people going to concerts and trips and here and there. And it's just like
People living
we
life.
are
Yeah.
pre-COVID streaming, which none of us, many of us don't know what that is. Right?
Yeah.
We're trying to figure it out. Like people who have like streamed before, the Nick Mercs and the big guys and Dr. Disrespects and all these other streamers that I don't even know about that were streaming to hundreds before, COVID hit are know what that's like, right? They might have
Yeah.
excelled during COVID and probably kept a little bit of that, retained a little bit of that viewership they got during COVID, but um I'm sure they've all gone back. I mean, I look at Nick Mercs, he was at 50, 60,000 people when I used to watch him at work during, those last 2 years. And now he streams to like 20,000, right? So if those drops are happening like crazy, I mean, it's just really harder for us as smaller streamers to just stay afloat and survive and be seen. And TikToks don't go viral like they used to. Like
No, because
it's
there's less
just
and less people on that stuff, right?
nothing seems to work out like fully. Like sometimes before it was like everything seems to be working, everything's going up, but now it's like, well, this is going up, but like everything else is kind of going down. Well, this is now going up, but oh, this other thing that was working last month is going down. So
Mm.
it's that being creative and being flexible. And actually just recorded a podcast episode of my own earlier last week, I think it was, and talked about how people are quitting and not, and just tired of trying. And I think the biggest culprit is lack of flexibility and able to adjust to change. I mean, we hate change, we don't like it, the unknown is scary, but that's what the space is, unfortunately, to be honest. It would be
Yeah.
nice if
No,
the
I
same things
agree.
just worked over and over again, but
Yeah, nothing works the same every time. Like
no,
I've had
no.
streams where I stream a specific game and it's like my average viewer has tripled, and then the next day or the next week on the same time at the same game it's like less than my
Yeah, for
average. And I'm
sure.
like, how
Yeah.
does that I was like, what the like what
Yeah, yeah.
happened? Like, you think that you
Definitely,
did something wrong. You're like, dude, I was just
it's,
not on it tonight. Like what the
yeah, no. It's tough, and it makes it hard to make changes, right? Because you're like, well, maybe my Thursday night, should be changed. Maybe I should just take that night off and do a different time that works better for me, and it seems to work better for the audience. And then all of a sudden, that stream next week pops off, and you're like, okay, don't change anything. It's like
Yeah.
you're being played with on a weekly basis
Yeah.
because of numbers and results and stats and stuff that you shouldn't care too much about, but you have to if you want to actually progress in anything. So
I used to
it's
do a thing where I used to get people to vote on the game that I would play, and this was the worst thing.
yeah.
Don't ever do this. Like I used to like make a poll and go, guys, what game do you want me to play? And then like 15, 20 people would vote on it, and it would be like, I don't know, Far Cry 3. Bet I'll play Far Cry 3. Play 2, 3 hours of Far Cry 3 with like 15 votes on it, average 2 viewers, and I'm like, how does that make sense?
Yeah, it's the
When
follow through and
Yeah, they're like, yeah, play this game, it's great, but they're like, I'm not gonna come watch you play it though. So like, I stopped doing that like forever ago. Now I've kind of brought it back, but all games that I really want to play anyways, like, because like we do single player Saturdays for my community, and like I'll make a list of games and I'm like, okay, well these ones I've wanted to play for a while. Like, which one would people prefer to watch me play right now?
mhm.
And lately it's been really good. Like, it's actually, my viewership has been up. Things like Hogwarts was a huge one for my community. It was the first increase of viewership and followage that was swift that I had ever seen in a long time, especially since I was playing it on hard mode. And then we
Yep.
moved into like Gas Station Simulator and Redfall, actually, even though it's really terrible like glitches and stuff. I don't know
Yeah.
if you ever considered playing it, but
I
apparently
looked into it, but I saw reports of all the issues, so I never went
the
into it
the,
more.
the viewership is stupid. Like, I'm average like
Yeah,
21 average. I average
yeah,
10.
it's a very
Like
yeah.
400 views on a 4-hour video. Like, what? Like, it's stupid. And a lot of people are coming in and be like, is it as bad as it is as they say it is? And I'm like, no, it's not. Like, it's really good. And like, we've only ran into one glitch where my buddy was playing with us. He played for a tiny bit. It disconnected us all. And then when he came back, he was back to ground zero, level 1, no guns. But like, he was
Right.
only level 2, so it wasn't a big thing. And
Yeah.
yeah, the connection drops every once in a while, but what it is that it's local server based, so it's whoever's hosting the lobby, it's based on
Right.
theirs. So
Right.
I was trying to stream it and play it at the same time, and my stream was freaking out. Like, nothing was working. It was lagging, everything. So we had to switch to my buddies. So now anytime I want to play it and I want to go through the campaign, I have to wait for him to be on.
Right,
That's the
right.
crappy part, because then I would have to start over. But overall, Redfall, really good viewership wise. If anybody is listening to this right now and really wants a game to play, surprisingly, Redfall is really good for viewership. I don't understand why.
Well, I think it's because it's a different
I think
type
it's
of
also because nobody
game.
wants to
It's
play it because they hear all
new.
the bad shit about it.
Yeah, and I think anytime I'm trying to think of like Sons of the Forest, even Hogwarts. When I streamed, I didn't do Sons of Forest, but when I did Hogwarts, a lot of new people came in because they wanted to see it before purchasing or see it
Right.
before, really getting into it themselves or something. Is it worth the time? Is it worth the money? And I think any new game that is seen on social media has that ability, right?
Yeah.
I saw Redfall a lot on like Twitter and all these things and videos of it and this and that. So it's kind of like Diablo 4, right? Diablo 4 is coming out soon. It's just like if
Oh, a
you
lot of
don't want
people
to
hyped
spend the
on
money
that.
on it, people who are playing it, their viewership will most likely go up because, and to be honest, a lot of people will go to smaller streamers because they can ask those questions and actually get responses.
True.
Is it worth it? How is it? What are the changes? What's new? Do I need to spend the money? I don't even know how much it is. I've never played a Diablo game in my life, but
Neither have I.
those are things that will bring people to your stream when you play a new game. The problem with that is new games cost money, and I
Yep.
I love it because people will tell me they're like, "Form, you do this full time. It's a write off." Yes, it is a write off. I
But my
write
bills
the
come
tax
first.
off, but I still have to purchase the game. I don't get that money back. I mean, if people knew how much tax I paid last year, they'd freaking the jaw would drop to the floor and never get back up. So it's difficult to be like this new game. It was like Hogwarts. I didn't want to buy Hogwarts, and lucky enough, I was gifted the game.
Me
So I was able
too.
to play it for like a week and a half. I mean, I wasn't spending $100 on a
I
wizard
was
game.
I was going to.
So
I
well, the
was
thing
going
with me
to, and
is
it was like I was going to, and then I was thinking about it, and it was coming around to
it's a
the
tough
week,
thing for
and
sure.
then
It's
all
a
of a
tough
sudden I was
decision.
like sitting on my PC, and my buddy was like, "Here." I was like, "What?"
Yeah,
He's like, "Check your
yeah,
computer," and I was like, "What do you? Why?"
yeah. It's pretty gnarly that that can even happen, right? But
I
for
think that's
me,
the
being an
biggest type
FPS
of like
guy,
that's the biggest type
eh,
of like support for me, in my opinion. Like I have friends that'll gift me games, and I'm like, y'all don't even
yeah, for sure.
understand. Like
I mean,
it's
like, it's like, "Here, you need this to make content? Well, here, I just bought it for you," right?
yeah,
And,
it's
it's like someone buying you,
huge.
like, a little camera or something like that. "You need this to do that? You need that shirt to look this way for your interview? Like, let me buy that for you," or whatever, right?
Yeah, it's huge.
Um, yeah, so it's definitely, which kinda, like, brings up the idea of, like, people buying you things. Like, I've been wanting a high ground keyboard for a year
I
now,
heard you talking about
and
that. I was about to
they went
ask you
on
if you were gonna get one.
well, they went on sale and all these things, and, I'm the type of person who wants to give stuff to my community before I buy it for myself. So I've been trying to
Yeah.
give one away, but obviously, it's like subs have to be there. Money has to come in for me to spend it on my community because bills come first, right? But nonetheless, last week got 2 donations from 2 people while live and said, "Go buy your keyboard." Well, that night I bought my keyboard.
Nice.
So
Good. Good for
I
you.
still feel guilty because that money I feel like it should have
Yeah.
just went to bills anyways. But things like that happen, and but like super off topic, but someone offered to pay for a haircut for me, like, which I think is super dope of them because they're like, like
Your
I just
hair's
want to
getting
like
kind of scruffy,
support you and
right?
like pay for something that you don't have to worry about, right? It's like if like mom said like, "Hey, I'll pay for your oil change," like you're gonna like really appreciate that, right? So
Yeah.
but
It's
yeah,
those little things.
it's kind
Yeah.
of crazy, but a little off topic there, but it is what it is.
No, but it's all
Um,
streaming related, so it's not, in a way, it's not
yeah,
off
yeah,
topic. Like,
but yeah, everything's changing, man, and like games change, and I would love to play all these new games that people want to watch and stream, and like people are like, you should play this, you should play that. And it's just like, well, I can't just go buy things.
unless you're
Um,
banding together to
it's
gift
tough.
it for me, I don't think.
Yeah, that's the thing, right?
That's
And
my struggle, because now that I
yeah,
do a lot of single player games. So it's one of those things of eventually I'm going to run out of games to play, because once I beat these games that only take me a couple weeks, I need to all of a sudden pull out money to buy new games. And I'm relying on like Epic's free games to come in with single player games that are good. I'm relying on
right.
Xbox Game Pass right now to like provide good single player games. And
Yeah,
then my
yeah, yeah.
extensive library of people gifting me games over the last 5 years that I've never touched. So like I have a backlog and I was like, oh, I really want to get Jedi. And they're like, how about you? I have some mods that are like slap into reality shit. Like they're like, you need to wake up, like stop living in this fairy tale where you have all this money, like understand.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I'm gonna go buy Jedi this week. And they're like, how about you play some games that you haven't touched that you've owned for
Yeah.
3 years?
Yeah.
I'm like,
For
yeah,
sure.
but Jedi. And they're like, but money expensive. You don't have money that's expensive. You live like I live with my in-laws. They're like, you need to pay bills. You have
Yeah.
child. Like snap out of it. Stop
Yeah.
being a kid, be an adult. And I'm like, yeah, you guys are right. And it works like every time like they do stuff like that to me. And I really appreciate them for that. But yeah, it's definitely a struggle for someone that's a content creator to always have that like unlimited power of being able to buy whatever game you want whenever you want it and play it whenever you want. And I envy those people. I really
Yeah.
do.
No, I agree. I agree.
Uh,
But it goes without saying that, like, when you do this, if you do this for fun, yes, a lot of that money that you could make can go through all those things, or towards those things, but you have to make it at the end of the day, right? So
mhm.
if you're just streaming and you're not actually making that money, it comes right out of your pocket, and that's the case for a lot of people. Trying to create content by buying this, buying that, buying a new camera because it'll up my content quality, but puts me in the hole financially. But I'm taking this risk, and like that's what it is to start off, and until you really kind of gain a little bit of traction, right? So, but it's like any business. It's your most times of new business is in debt the first year,
Oh
right?
yeah.
You're not really making any profit until afterwards. So it's a risk that you hope to be willing to make, and if you're not, you're not, right? And you just stick to what you have and stick to what you got, and go from there. So
Yeah, because that's funny you mentioned that stuff because I recently had to have a talk with one of my mods, which is actually the guy that I do. Well, I mean, you know him. He was in your stream. Was it last night or the night before? Mr. Drunk Rin.
right, yeah, yeah,
He does the podcast with me on the opposite episodes. So like this episode will go out on the 1st, and then on the 15th we'll drop an episode about a game that we played, which by the way means I need to buy more games, which means I need to spend more money just to provide free content to people. So that's fun.
hmm
Rin tends to gift me those games because he's crazy like that. But when he decided to do the podcast, he had a headset mic. And when the first
right,
episode came out, he was like,
right.
my quality is atrocious. He's like, I'm going to go buy a mic. What do you recommend? I said, go get an MV7 because you can plug it in
Right.
via USB. And then later on, when you accumulate some more money, you can go buy an XLR interface.
Yeah.
And then next second, I know Rin's buying cameras and webcams, and he bought an M200 and a T7 in a week so that he could do model kit buildings for streaming. Now he streams. I was like, do you realize how much money you spent to start streaming model kits that cost you money to
Yeah.
buy? He's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah. I was like, no, like you don't even understand. You spent almost $2,000 on cameras.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't have that business mentality, right? Like
Like
expense
he's
versus
like, I'm
profit,
already building.
revenue.
He's like, I'm already building them, and he's like, and I wanted a camera to take nice pictures with. So he's like, it's a
Right.
win-win, right? But he's like, but it kind of sucks that I had to buy two because the T7 wasn't working quite right because I don't think it's built for like a webcam purpose because there was always like you couldn't get a clean HDMI out of it at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
So even with
Just
the cam link,
photography camera. Yeah.
yeah. So now he uses the T7 as like a photography camera, and he uses the M200 as his webcam.
Right.
And it's so funny that he had to go through that. But yeah, there's people out there that'll do worse than that. They'll spend like $4,000 on a computer. They'll buy this massive, the 32 button Stream Deck. They'll buy the SM7B, and they have like 5 followers, and you're like, dude, you're not gonna make that money back in a year.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way. I didn't make a payout until I was 2.5 years in. Like, and that was back when
Takes a bit of
payouts were
time.
$100. Like, because
Yep.
payouts are now $50 now. I wish I would have made a payout
So
so much sooner than 2.5
yeah,
years.
for sure, for sure. I think people misunderstand how much it takes to really like
And I
make
and I
profit
get it
in
though.
streaming.
I get it though. If you were planning on buying that stuff already just because you want it, for sure. But if you're buying it strictly to do streaming, in my opinion, I'm sorry, but you're
Yeah.
stupid. You're stupid. It's not a good financial
Yeah, I
decision.
mean, like
Start with what you
I
have.
only upgraded when I knew like I would never I wouldn't put myself in a financial, deficit. Obviously, like when it comes to what I've made versus what I spent initially, I was like, yeah, I haven't made back what I spent yet, but I'm also not like using my life savings to buy a camera.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh
I'm not
man.
using my life savings to buy a monitor, like things that for instance, my keyboard, 1 year I've been wanting one, and I
Hmm.
never bought it. And technically it was like, it's only $160 Canadian, I think, like when the
Yeah.
regular price, maybe a bit more. So it's not like this a $2,000 thing, right? But you have to have some sort of willpower in as a streamer, because you can buy all these monitors and this and that and a computer and cameras and lights and whatever, right? And it's not cheap. It's
No.
really not. Just a USB to make my camera work is $200 Canadian.
Tell me about it.
So I mean,
I put that off for so long. So
it's
I've had
tough.
my camera for over a year, and I recently bought the cam link. Like I was using a
Right.
720p
Yeah, yeah.
USB for
Yeah.
$20, and I had such a hard time to convince myself to buy the cam link because this one was
Hmm.
working. Same with my
Yep.
mic. I had an AT4040. It's a $400 mic. It took me forever. It took me 2 years to convince myself to get the Shure SM7B.
Right.
I do not regret my life decision on buying the Shure SM7B. I wish I would have bought it sooner because my quality of tone has
Yeah.
been so
Yeah.
much better. People have commented on my voice. People have
Hmm.
commented on the
I definitely
audio
think
quality,
audio video quality of a stream really helps retain viewers. That's
uh,
for sure.
especially audio. Your
Yeah.
video camera can be crap. Your lighting can be fantastic and make that video camera look like really good. But
Hmm.
if you're talking through a headset mic and you're choppy and you're peaking and
Yeah.
you're having all these
It's gonna be
audio
tough.
problems, no one's gonna stay. And if they do, you're very lucky. Your content must be really good.
Hmm.
Wait till you
Yeah.
get
Or
a
they just
mic.
like know you on a personal
It's
level
like
or
wait
something.
till you get a mic. Your quality is gonna go over like a tenfold. Like it's gonna be so much better. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, the decisions to buying tech is like a lot of people just jump on it. You have to be strategic about it in a way. It has to be worth
Yeah.
it,
Yep.
and you have to make sure that you don't have to worry about something else in the long run. Like I would hate to buy a keyboard and then my graphics card break and then me go, "Oh no, $200 of my
Yeah.
graphics card money went into that keyboard.
Yeah.
Damn."
And I
Like
mean, it's like it's bound to happen. I mean,
right.
for instance, I bought this keyboard. Yeah, it was $120 US or whatever. The donations came in to buy it, but I also realized that my motorcycle needs $1,000 repair job. So it's just like there's
Mm,
always something, right? That it's
yeah.
like, you need this for that, and money doesn't buy happiness, but it fixes motorcycles, which makes me happy, and and it buys me this and that, and buys me pizza and all these things, right? So
Right.
but like the more and more I see people, and I've been doing this full time for, it'll be a year in July. So 3 years streaming total next month. The month after that, a few weeks after actually, will be a year that I went full time and I quit my job. But I literally, like, I cringe when people say like, I want to do this full time. I want to be a full time streamer, because I would highly, insanely encourage someone that wants to do that and that is close to doing it to, unless you're making like, I don't know, $15,000 a month and you really have nothing to worry about, go ahead. And there are
Yeah.
those small streamers that do that. There are small streamers that make hundreds and hundreds of subs every stream, every week, whatever. But it's very rare, I think. And is it sustainable? I don't know. It's based off people giving you money, right? So I think I would highly encourage people to literally keep a job, keep something, even if it's a remote job that you don't want to have to like dedicate yourself to showing up to. Like I couldn't work at the gym for part time and still do the life, have the
Yeah.
lifestyle I have now.
Exactly.
Like I just have to show up a specific day, a specific time, sit there for 4 or 5 hours, whatever the shift is, and hate my life, right? But if someone wants to be a full-time streamer and like live that freedom lifestyle, I highly encourage people to have something on the side, remote, that you can do from your computer, from wherever you want in the world. Because that's what I think freedom is not necessarily not working. You have to work for your money, but if I can go to Florida for a trip for a week, but still stream and still create content, all these things, I'm still working. I'm still able to do my
Yeah.
job and live my life. But I'm in Florida instead of the cold winter in Canada.
Right.
So, but yeah, I think, you know, there's a lot of changes, but the more and more I see people like, I want to do this full time, I don't think they realize what that means to them. I think that just means going live, all the time over and over again, and making money doing it. but you have to like seek out all these partnerships and sponsorships and money that can like sustain you a little bit, and then work on your content to make that better. But I honestly think if I had to look back a year ago, I would have just said like, all right, I'm going to quit my gym job, but I'm also going to have this on the side,
Right.
to make sure
Yeah.
that, just to make sure that I always have something. And it's a remote job. It's really simple. It's easy, blah, 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 blah. But it helps me,
Pay the
get through
bills so you're not
those
worried so
low months,
much.
get through the slower things. And
Hmm.
when the big months happen, well, I got it more, I have extra. So yeah, it's definitely something that I think people need to take into consideration when they want to do this full time type thing.
My cousin did that. She jumped in over her head. She was a streamer for a year. She established herself really quickly, was gaining a lot of money, gaining a lot of followers, and she went, you
Hmm.
know what? I'm going to do this full time. Decided to do it full time, and all of a sudden she was having to do, and no hate against her, she was really trying to make it work, but she was having to do donation goals for rent and like, sub goals for this, and she had to keep planning these like massive multi-day streams and all this stuff because it was her only income, and she put herself through so much hell in a year, in like a year, that she quit. She
Hmm.
didn't see it as a viable option for her, and she's right, it wasn't a viable option, and she was way too early into the scene to completely quit her job and do it. I've considered it. There was a time when I was pulling in easily like $800-900 a month, and I was like, dude, if I find like one more guy like this, because this was all from one guy, I was like, if I find one more guy like this, I'm golden. Like that's my paychecks every 2 weeks and stuff. And like, I've been working this so great, this is great. And but I was also working a remote job, so I was like able to stream every day of the week and still do work, and like not worry about what time I was waking up, what time I had to go to bed, like, because no matter what, I made my own schedule for both. So it was like, yeah, it can be sustainable in a way, but I agree with that where like unless you're making thousands of dollars a month and you don't have thousands of dollars in bills and you're able to put like 50% of that
Hmm.
away every
Yeah.
month, I don't think streaming full time is a viable option. As a hobby, like for people that are doing it as a hobby, that's a
Yeah.
fantastic hobby if you're making money, by the way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
Any
like when
hobby
I
that
was
has a
working
return
at
on
the
an
gym, I
investment. Phew.
mean, like when I was working at the gym, I made minimum wage, so I made $2,000 a month, and that included commission. So if someone's working a minimum wage job here where I live in Ontario, it's you're making, that was 40 hours a week, $16 an hour, 17 bucks, or it was 15, 16, yeah, $16
Which is
an hour.
probably higher now because minimum wage here in New Brunswick
Yeah,
is 14.75.
probably. So I mean, but that was great and all, but whatever I made from streaming helped cover more of the bills, and then it was just all extra, right? So, but then as soon as you leave a job, you are losing. You're not all of a sudden making that money more on your streams. You're not
Right.
making. I wasn't. As soon as I quit, I didn't start making an extra $2,000 a month on streams. I was
If
making what
only,
I
right?
was on streams, but I was reducing my income by $2,000, right?
Yeah, if only
To
that's how that worked
you
though,
know
right?
it's not the way, but I did it because I was, wanted this lifestyle, wanted that freedom, wanted more time to dedicate to things, and it is what it is. But yeah, it's quite the leap, and I think a lot of people, I would hope anyways that people really truly like sit there and think really hard, like,
Well, they also have to
is
think
this
about
worth
like
it?
the long term. And what people
Yeah, the
don't realize is,
sustainability, man. The
well,
sustainability is huge.
it's not only that, like people don't realize like even for you at this point, like if you do streaming for 10 years, that's 10 years gone from your pension.
Oh, 100%.
Like
Yeah.
unless you're
No,
putting
it's
money
people
into
don't think
that,
of
that's
like,
like people don't think
yeah,
about that,
like
and then they get to
and
65 and they go to
it's
retire and they're
yeah,
like, by the way, your income is like $800 a month, and you're like, what the fuck? Like how am I
yeah,
supposed to
no,
survive on that? Like what?
you don't, right?
Right.
You don't.
So people
Yeah,
don't
what a
realize
lot of
that.
people, yeah, when you're self-employed, you don't like, I don't have benefits anymore. I don't have vacation time.
Yeah.
I take a day off, it's potential money lost, right? And when you retire, you don't have a pension unless you've been putting away your own investments.
Right.
So you got to be smart about it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that part,
Become
you
a
know.
full-time streamer, you're instantly an
So,
adult. You have to do all your own
oh,
shit.
100%. And that's
Ye-
why, like, I kind of like I don't know if giggle is the word, but like when these like 21-year-olds or something like that, they're like, I'm taking streaming full time serious now. Like I'm not, I got fired from my job at the golf course and I'm doing full time streaming. I'm just like, go
Screw
ahead,
this, man.
but
I'm going to show my mom and dad. Like,
yeah,
like, you're
exactly.
like,
Like you
good one,
might want
kid.
to,
Good
you might
one.
want to go reply or throw some interviews or some resumes out there because
Yeah.
you're probably going to need it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that goes back to the whole fact that like a lot of the people who put all this time in, they don't have mortgages to pay. They don't even know what a mortgage is and all
Right.
these things. A lot of them do though. There are a lot of full-time streamers with families and with, mortgages and all that stuff to pay. But yeah, it's definitely a job that is there's no mercy, I guess you can say,
No, because you're
because
also dealing with like bank
uh,
shit and stuff. Like with,
yeah, I
because
mean,
I saw you were
yeah, try and get
struggling
a
with that.
mortgage, you
Yeah.
won't, for the first while,
It's like first 3 years or
Um,
something like that. They give you a hard time because the first year
yeah,
they establish your business's income over the first 2 years. And
yeah, it's really
then if
weird.
there's too big of a fluctuation, they totally kick you out basically. So if you made like 10 grand 1 year and then 30 the next and then 25 the year after, they're gonna go, oh no, your income went down. Oh no,
Yeah,
that
no,
means
that's
you're
the thing, right? It's
unreliable. And you're like,
they
what?
take averages, right? Yeah, they take averages, and if they see it going up or down or anything like that, little fluctuations, you're self-employed. How do you make your money? Where does it come from? We don't trust that. We don't,
Right.
it's too
Yeah.
risky and all that stuff. And then lenders don't want to give you money. And then, but that's another story because
Oh
I've
man, that's a
I've
whole
even
nother
thought
podcast
about.
episode, really. Like
Yeah, I
I
mean,
know a buddy
that
that he
housing market's crazy. So,
like the guy that
um,
owns the company that I do podcast editing for, and like this podcast is kind of sponsored by and stuff. When I first worked for him, it was like I was able to get approved for an apartment based on the fact that I worked for him. I was able to get approved for like a bunch of stuff, and he couldn't even get a car loan. And he
yeah,
owned the
no, it's
business.
pretty
He
crazy.
was pulling in 75% more than what I was.
Yeah,
And the bank's like, no, we can't trust your money. But
yeah,
because
no,
he
it's
works
it's
for
tough.
you and his money's legit, we can trust him.
Yeah,
It's like, it doesn't make
if you're employed
sense.
somewhere, we get pay stubs. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if you own your own thing or you work for yourself and you make your own money as a contractor or whatever,
Good luck.
they don't, yeah, they
Good
don't
luck.
understand it. So, but that's why I think a lot of the like really really rich people rent homes.
Yeah.
They don't do the mortgage thing. They don't. I think it goes without saying that nowadays you don't. I don't know. I think it's a bit different than back in the day when you needed that credit and you needed, you know, for some reason you needed it in your name, the mortgage to your name, and build credit and build this. I know the investment part because there is no investment when you rent. You can't sell the property and make money
I
off of it,
wish.
right? I mean, we're selling our condo, and if we do anything of that, we're making a lot of profit just because of how the housing market went up in the last 4 or 5 years.
Right.
But that's because we own it, right? But I think moving forward, it's just like you could also like we were looking at places in a different city, a bigger city, better place, way more things to do, awesome lifestyle, and you could rent for the same amount of money we're paying now for a brand new home, like a full 3-story home,
Yeah.
brand new, like not even lived in, right? Just built. So it's
Wow.
just like, yeah, definitely like, I think this type of job comes with that type of lifestyle. It's a little bit more risky, obviously. You're renting. Someone can be
Yep.
like, "Hey, here's your 2 months notice. We're like, I don't know, we're destroying this building. I don't know what,
My brother-in-law has that struggle.
Um, so as risky as streaming is, your lifestyle becomes risky, right?
Yeah.
But I think you have to turn that into like, it's not risk, it's adventure. I guess you can
Oh
say.
yeah, 100%.
You
I
know what I
agree with
mean?
that. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like, when we've been talking about maybe, down the road, maybe we move to a completely different city. I'm just like, I've always lived here, like, but maybe it's just a new adventure. Maybe it's a journey. Maybe it's a
It might
new
be
thing
temporary,
that,
but whatever. Enjoy
you know
it,
what I mean?
right?
Yeah. And like, you don't know if things work out or if how happy you could be doing something if you never
Mhm.
do it. Right.
Yep.
And that is streaming, to be honest, talking about moving places and houses and all these things. But streaming itself is, you don't know if you'll be happy doing it unless you really go full
Right.
force.
Yeah.
Right.
I've heard a
So,
few quotes around stuff like, doing crazy things, and like one of the things that stuck by me is that fear is the biggest motivator to try something because it means that you're scared of what's going to happen, but you don't know what's going to happen, and it could be a good thing. Like
yeah.
there's things like that. And then one of the other ones that
Yeah.
I live my daily life by this shit, and it's crazy. my friends go, I don't understand why you're always happy now, because I've been so happy with how things have been going, even though when my days are shit. And it's because I always look at it
Hmm.
and I go, I'm better than I was yesterday, but worse than I am tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because every
Always
day
getting
is a
better.
day for an improvement. It's like I wake up and I go, okay, things that I did yesterday don't matter. I'm going to focus on today so that tomorrow, when I look back at today, I know I can do better tomorrow. People are like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? Like, it's so confusing, but it makes
No,
sense to
I
me.
mean, it goes without saying that in life in general, but even more so when you're in this type of industry, is you really have to have a good mindset and a good brain on your shoulders,
Yeah.
because like things will come at you fast and furious. And
Fast, furious, and no
if
signal.
no, yeah, if you're
Like,
not ready to dodge, dip, and dive, and accept and move forward and make changes, then it will eat you up.
yes,
So
sir.
it's yeah, it goes without saying that you got to be. It's not about just being positive, but it's about having that mindset, right?
Yeah,
So
it's a lot. It's a lot. But we're coming up on that hour, and I know you have, although it's a nice,
yeah, yeah,
probably
we're
relaxing night
live
for you.
tonight. So
Yeah. So right quick, I want you to take a second to let people know, one, where to find you, because you're on Kick and Twitch and TikTok and all that stuff. And also, if you want to let them know about what's going on in June for you for your stream anniversary and stuff, that's the, go right to town on it.
yeah, well, we're still live on Twitch 5 days a week. I only take Mondays off, but we're live on Kick 3 of those days as well, mostly during the daytime, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays over on Kick. But never know what's going to change. But we are handle is lxFormidablexl pretty much everywhere except Instagram. But Instagram is Instagram. We don't
Yeah.
need to talk about
We don't
that.
even, I don't even post on Instagram anymore.
um, Well, yeah, next month, June 24th, is a Saturday, and it's our 3-year stream anniversary. From the first day I turned on my Xbox and went live right from my Xbox back in the day in the living room. So I don't have anything specific planned just yet, but I imagine it involves a 24-hour stream or some sort of thing like that, where we'll try and get even more creative, talk about the creative part, try and find some sort of incentives, activities, and all that, because I always fail at finding new ideas to do. It's always beans and spicy things and
Same,
things in your face. And
same.
but maybe we'll try and get wacky this time around. We'll see. But that's that, and we're just gonna keep on keeping on.
Awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time again to talk to me, because like I said, well, I goofed on the first recording, and technology failed me like always, but it's also been an honor knowing you and seeing over the last year, because I've been around for a year, for you to see like what's kept you going and stuff. And I congratulate you a little bit early on the 3 years, because I know it's not easy to make it through those 3 years.
I
Coming the
appreciate it,
fact that
man.
I'm on 5 right now, so
Yeah, you've been doing it longer
I've
than
been
I
doing it
have. So
longer, yeah. But you've seen a lot of success. You've met a lot of amazing people, and those people are amazing. Even though like I only really see them in your stream, they're amazing people, and I'm sure you can't thank them enough for what they've done for
yeah,
you in the past, present,
100%,
and future. But I really appreciate
100%.
you taking the time to take a little bit of time out of your day to sit down and talk with me again. And I can't wait for June 24th. I'll probably be there for a bit, although that's a stream day for me, but I'll definitely be there as much as I can to support and show some love on that, because that's a big milestone. So I really
Sounds
appreciate you
good
on
to
that.
me, man. Should be a good time. I'm sure of it, regardless of what happens.